Frozen Horror may have just been leaked, revealing the contents of the box. On March 31st, I was looking on the Heroquest subreddit and came across this post, and sure enough, they have proof, and it's on a Swedish website, so let's check it out. It's on Roliga Bredspel. As you see here, it's Heroquest 2021, that should be 2022 now, but it's not. Frozen Horror English for $4.99 KR. And what we have here, first of all, is the lovely box art image, which we saw a teaser of at PulseCon, and if you take a look using this one, you can see that they line up. Just like with the other expansions, the box art is of course an homage to the original. Yeah, you got your barbarian there, swinging his nice big sword at the Frozen Horror himself, with a Yeti on the right side and the ice gremlins in the background. I really appreciate all the detail on here. You can see the lightning effect coming from his fingers, the icicles clinging to his shoulder pads, and the overlapping plates of his armor. It says the release is Q3 2022, but that might change and be different for different places. A new, slick, and updated version of a classic HeroQuest expansion, Frozen Horror. The third expansion for HeroQuest adds new monsters, mercenaries, artifacts, spells, traps, rooms, and a 10-quest adventure set in the Arctic. Welcome, mighty barbarian, to the land of your youth. The tribal elders have summoned you to protect the Northland from great danger. The Frozen Horror, an evil creature long thought banished, has burst forth from its icy tomb to wait Zargon's command. A champion is needed to oppose the Frozen Horror. To determine your worthiness, you alone must complete 3 dangerous quests. If you survive, you and your fellow heroes must journey into the depths of Ice Mountain. There you must confront the Frozen Horror and destroy it forever. This first picture is just the angled version of the box art. It has the same stuff as the other ones, the 14+, 2 to 5 players, and the Avalon Hill logo, nothing special here. But then the second image is where things get interesting. We can see what's in the box, including the miniatures, which there's a close-up of them a bit later. First of all, we have the tiles. This seems like a cage where the heroes might get trapped. Here is a nice big ice chasm. You have your skull markers, looks like some kind of ice vortexes. That looks like an ice slide, that's kind of cool. Treasure room, different tiles you can overlay. Another chasm, or maybe that's water, and the Frozen Horror's throne room, similar to the Witch Lord's. And of course, your character sheets, they're blue this time, that's kind of cool. And your quest book. Here is our image with the close-up of all the miniatures and the other stuff in the background. Taking a look at these, what we have is actually 12 of these mercenaries. In the original, I believe that there were 6, but the weapons were interchangeable. But because we get these miniatures as single pieces of plastic, there's a lot more because they just have the weapon options permanently attached to them. Then we have a nice looking iron door here with the Frozen Horror's face in it. This one's the reinforced door. We have ourselves the female barbarian. It's kind of hard to tell from the slightly pixelated image, but there'd be no reason why Hasbro should change that, especially since the original barbarian was female for this expansion. Then we have our little ice gremlins here. They look kind of like gnomes, but icy. Then we have our 2 Yetis. I'll be comparing these to the old ones quite soon. And our polar warbears, as well as the big Frozen Horror in the background. It looks to me like his base is a lot larger than these other ones. It's probably a 40mm size base, and these dice, I'm not sure if they're going to be transparent or not, but it looks like they will for sure be blue and that you'll be getting more combat dice with this expansion, as well as blue D6s. I'm assuming that this is still just the renders, but you can tell that there's some good detail on these miniatures. The polar warbears, easily identifiable as bears from here. Yetis look a bit closer to D&D Yetis. The Frozen Horror has quite a bit of detail. You can see his armor there. There's some fur around him. His legs, he's got claws, he's got his giant axe, shoulder pads, and these mercenaries are wearing a little bit of armor, but are still mobile enough. And we can read the back of the box as well. The Frozen Horror has burst forth from the icy tomb where it rested these last centuries, recovering its strength and awaiting Zargon's summons. At last, that call has come, and the raging beast has returned to its ancient seat of deep power within Ice Mountain. As we speak, it is rallying its minions and mobilizing its plans to cover the Northlands and the realm in a shroud of deadly ice. Barbarian, you must call on your courage and skill you did not realize you had to confront the evil of the Frozen Horror. Barbarian, prove your prowess and save the Northlands. In this chilling expansion to the HeroQuest adventure, you must journey through the bleak and frigid Northlands to destroy the evil Frozen Horror, a ferocious creature long banished. As the powerful barbarian, you are first challenged to survive dangerous solo quests to prove your strength and valor. Only then will your fellow heroes join you to gain access to Ice Mountain, to destroy the Scepter of Glacial Majesty and defeat the terrible monster. And we can get into the contents, so then we'll know for sure what's in this quest book. 21 finely detailed miniatures, that's your Frozen Horror, Barbarian, 12 Mercenaries, 3 Ice Gremlins, 2 Polar Warbears, 2 Yetis, 2 Dungeon Doors, 35 game cards, 3 cardboard tile sheets, 6 combat dice, 2 movement dice, and your pad of character sheets. From this image, it does look like the dice are solid color, unfortunately, but that's probably fine. Another interesting thing is the color of the plastic. Very obviously, the heroes are going to be red. These are blue, but they're a very light blue. And it seems like these miniatures might be a dark gray, possibly a different gray than the Gargoyle and Dread Warriors. So, how did this leak happen? I believe that it happened the same way that the retail version of the game was leaked. There's actually 2 options. It's either option A, that the retailer published it way before they were supposed to, or B, that it could be guerrilla marketing to try and get us talking about the game again. But I'm leaning towards A because that has happened in the past. And you might be wondering, what's Avalon Hill and Zargon's response to this? Well, let's take a look. Zargon says, "Oh no, my worst kept secret is out." And another reply by Zargon is, "Wait, I mean April Fools." Yeah, this is obviously happening. And Avalon Hill says, "We're taking a look at this listing, and please remember that any dates are tentative. With the state of shipping in the world, we want to make sure any announcements are as accurate as possible." So it's not confirmed what quarter of the year this is going to be in yet. While I've never owned Frozen Horror myself, I have access to this great thing called Ye Olde Inn, so we can see what was inside the old version. There were quite a collection of different artifacts. Hopefully all of these make it into the new version. Then there's 6 chaos spells, which would be the dread spells now. Then you have all your monsters, different types of the mercenaries, so each one has different abilities that it can do because of their different weapons. You have the Yeti there with Hug Attack, which I believe that one was incredibly overpowered, and so I'm wondering, will they have that in the new game, or did they try and rebalance things? And of course, need more treasure cards, both good and bad. Poison, magic resistance, warmth. There must be another sheet of cards that we aren't seeing right now, because there's this whole other section in the old version of the game that I'm not seeing. Like there's this big tile here with the Polar Warbears and Yetis on it, but I'm not seeing anything here. So possibly on the other side of this treasure one, maybe? It's kind of hard to tell what's different since we don't really have all the images, but I can imagine that it'll be very similar. Strangely enough, there's only 3 tile sheets in this. Looks like the old one, taking a look here, had 4 of them. So I'm not sure what's missing or whether they just were able to make more space because they didn't need to print out the doors. Here's one to check out. The Frozen Horror's Throne Room. There's that pool of ice. I think that's a lake still. The treasure room and his throne room, as well as the cage. And those elements do appear here in the new version. Unsurprisingly, they kept the design for the throne room exactly the same. And the miniatures in the old version, we had the female barbarian as well. The mercenaries, the swordsman, scout, crossbowman, and halberdier. Then you had the ice gremlins, 3 of them. 2 yetis that look a bit like the abominable snowman from Rudolph. Polar warbears that had such a large mouth, apparently. And the Frozen Horror 2, which looks like it might take up 2 spaces, and that would explain the new version's big base size. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for the game? I would say that this is a very good thing for the future of Heroquest. The old versions of this expansion retain their value, while many more people will be able to play the expansion. And some people may be able to keep their old boxes sealed while playing the new version of the expansion instead. For now, this is all the Heroquest news that I have, but I'll be speaking about the Guardian Knight shortly. If you want to see more Heroquest, click the video on screen now, and I will see you all in my next video. Goodbye!